Romeo and Juliet. In Verona, there was quarrel between two chief families, namely the Capulets and the Montagus. The enmity was so great that not even the servants of the two families could avoid a fight when they met one another. A great supper was arranged by Lord Capulet, to which many noblemen and women were invited. Among them were some celebrated beauties. Rosalind, Romeo's lady love, was also present. Romeo's friend, Benvolio, tempted Romeo to appear there in disguise and compare his Rosalind's beauty with that of the celebrities of Verona. There, Romeo was instantly struck by the extraordinary beauty of one of the ladies present. Romeo was also identified to be a Montagu, but he was left unhurt and unoffended as old Lord Capulet did not like a scene to be created amidst the respected guest. Romeo also behaved like a gentleman there, and he was also very popular among the people. But Tybalt, a Capulet, was swearing that he would take revenge on Romeo at a more suitable time. Soon after the dance, Romeo made some advances to the lady. They exchanged a few words, Romeo expressing his admiration for her. The lady was called by her mother soon. In disguise, Romeo also participated in the feast. Romeo found out that the beautiful lady beyond compare was Juliet, the daughter and heir to Lord Capulet. Juliet also found out that he was Romeo, a Montagu. Though both were troubled by the thoughts that they belonged to rival groups, this could not dissuade them from loving each other. They parted as Juliet joined her mother. Romeo left the place with his friends, but not being able to be without seeing her for long, went back and climbed the wall of an orchard which was at the back of her house. Here he stood thinking about his new love. Soon Juliet appeared above a window. She too had been conquered by the thoughts of love for Romeo. She wished that he were a glove upon her hand that might touch her cheek. Romeo overheard her confessions of love by Juliet. She wished that his name were not Romeo, and he a Montagu. If he would not refuse his name, she would cease to be a Capulet. Romeo stood unnoticed listening to Juliet's confessions of love. After a while, he made his presence known by addressing her. She shuddered to think of the dire consequences that would follow if he were found climbing the orchard walls. She warned him that, being a Montagu, he would put to death. He replied, better my life should be ended by their hate than hated life should be prolonged, to live without your love. She appealed to Romeo not to underrate her virtue because of her immediate confession of love for him. But that was the only result of her new founded love. She would prove true love in her love towards him even more than those women who would pretend to be coy and indifferent to the professions of love by their lovers. She told him that she had already given him all that was hers, even without his asking for it. All the same, She would like to take back what she had already given to him, to have the pleasure of giving it all to him again. Juliet was called by her nurse to go to bed. She hastened to convey that if he was truly and honorably in love with her and meant to marry her, she would lay aside all her wealth and follow Romeo. The two lovers parted unwillingly as the nurse repeatedly called Juliet. The next morning, Romeo went to find Friar Lawrence and sought his help to marry Juliet on that day. The friar was much wonderstruck by the sudden change in Romeo. Till then, he had been in love with Rosalind, who had not reciprocated his love. Romeo explained that both he and Juliet loved each other. The friar consented to their marriage, hoping that this would bring the long enmity between the two families to an end. The friar was a good friend to both the groups and had often mediated between them. Juliet, finding out Romeo's plans through a messenger, appeared at the friar's room very early. They were solemnly made man and wife, and the friar expressed the hope that union would bury the age long enmity between the two families. Juliet returned home after the wedding and impatiently waited for Romeo to appear at the orchard as he had done the previous night. The same day, at about noon, Romeo's friend Benvolio and Mercutio met a band of Capulets headed by the haughty Tybalt. Tybalt instantly picked a quarrel with Mercutio, though Benvolio tried to pacify them. Romeo, passing that way, was called a villain by Tybalt, but Romeo did not desire to involve himself. But when he saw Mercutio slain, Romeo could not contain himself. In a duel that followed, Romeo killed Tybalt. The news spread far and wide. The prince, after listening to Benvolio's account of the happenings, and after carefully examining the facts, passed the judgment that Romeo was banished from Verona. The news reached Juliet, and she was overcome with anger that he had killed Tybalt, and soon she was glad that Romeo has emerged successful, or he would have been killed. Now she grieved at the cruel judgment that had been passed on Romeo. In Friar Lawrence's cell, Romeo took refuge after the confrontation. There he heard the news of his banishment. He was grieved beyond expression as he felt that he couldn't live without seeing Juliet. He received a message from his lady, and this consoled him a little. The friar made Romeo understand that the law had been lenient to him. He was fortunate that death sentence has not been passed on him, and he was so lucky not to have got killed in the duel. He further advised him to go and see Juliet that night and take leave of her. From there, he had to proceed to Mantua and stay there until the opportune moment of announcing his wedding. The friar hoped that then he would be excused and he could return happily to Verona. The friar, in the meantime, would keep Romeo informed of the happenings in Verona.